The starship horizon moved through the darkness of space like a small fish swimming toward a whale. Han-Ti stood at the observation window and watched as the planet Velos Prime grew larger and larger. The world was beautiful in a strange way. Its surface was covered with crystals that caught the light of three distant suns and threw colors across the sky like a painting. Han-Ti was 28 years old. He was not tall, not short, not the strongest man on the ship, but not the weakest either. He was simply a soldier who did his job well and asked for nothing special in return. His black hair was cut short in military style, and his dark eyes were calm and steady. He had a small scar on his chin from a training accident years ago. "First contact with an alien empire," said a voice behind him, "and they send us." Han-Ti turned to see his friend Dee walking toward him. Dee was younger by 2 years, with a quick smile and nervous energy that never seemed to stop. "Captain Yuna says we need to be careful," Han-Ti replied. "The Velans are warriors. They respect strength above everything else." Dee laughed, but there was no real humor in it. "Then we are in trouble, my friend. Humans are not known for our strength. We are small. We are soft. We break easily." Han-Ti looked back at the approaching planet. "Maybe, but we are also still here. That counts for something." The landing was smooth. The horizon settled onto a platform made of white crystal that seemed to sing as the ship touched it. Han-Ti checked his weapon one final time, then took his place with the security team as the main doors opened. The air of Velos Prime was thin and cold, but breathable. Han-Ti stepped out and got his first look at the Velans. They were tall. The shortest of them stood at least 7 feet high, with silver skin that reflected the light like polished metal. Their eyes were large and came in colors that humans did not have names for. They moved with the easy grace of predators who had never known fear. The Velan welcoming party wore armor made of something that looked like glass but was probably stronger than steel. They carried no weapons that Han-Ti could see, but he understood at once that they did not need any. Their bodies were weapons enough. Captain Yuna walked at the front of the human group. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had commanded ships for 30 years and had seen things that would break most people. She bowed slightly to the Velans, showing respect without submission. "We thank the Velan Empire for this invitation," she said. "Earth hopes this is the beginning of a long friendship." The Velan who stood at the front of their group did not bow back. He simply looked at the humans the way a person might look at insects crawling on the ground. "You are smaller than we expected," he said. His voice was deep and carried the tone of someone who was not impressed. "We shall see if you are worth our time." Han-Ti felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his face calm. This was not his place to speak. The humans were led through corridors of crystal and light to a great hall where a banquet had been prepared. Hundreds of Velans filled the room, eating and drinking and talking in their musical language. They stopped and stared as the humans entered. Han-Ti took his position along the wall with the other security officers. He was supposed to watch and protect, nothing more. He was not supposed to speak or draw attention to himself. But then he saw her. Princess Lyra sat on a raised platform at the far end of the hall. She was different from the other Velans. Her silver skin was darker, like a storm cloud rather than polished metal. Her eyes were violet, and they seemed to glow with an inner light. She wore robes of deep purple that flowed around her like water, and on her head sat a crown of crystal that caught every color in the room. She was watching the humans with an expression that Han-Ti could not read. It was not hatred, not quite. It was something closer to curiosity mixed with disappointment. The banquet went on. Food was served that the humans could not eat. Drinks were offered that smelled like flowers and poison. Captain Yuna made polite conversation with the Velan nobles while her crew stood silent and watched. Then a large Velan noble stood up from his seat. He had clearly been drinking too much, and his silver face was flushed with dark blue color. "I do not understand," he said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "Why do we waste our time with these creatures? Look at them. They are soft. They are weak. A child of Velos could break them with one hand." Some of the other Velans laughed. Captain Yuna's face remained calm, but Han Ti could see the tension in her shoulders. "They come from a world of water and dirt," the noble continued. "They live for less than 100 years. They have no claws, no armor, no strength. What could they possibly offer the great Velan Empire?" The laughter grew louder. Han Ti felt his hands form into fists at his sides. He knew he should stay silent. He knew his orders. But some things were more important than orders. "The river wears away the mountain," Han Ti said. His voice was not loud, but in the sudden silence it carried across the entire hall. Not through strength, but through persistence. Every eye turned to him. The drunk noble's face twisted with anger. Captain Yuna looked at him with an expression that promised severe punishment later, but Han Ti kept his eyes forward, his stance steady. Princess Lyra stood up from her throne. The entire hall went silent as she walked down the steps and crossed the floor toward the human soldier who had dared to speak. She stopped in front of Han Ti and looked down at him. She was taller by at least a foot, and this close, he could see that her violet eyes held depths he could not understand. "You speak boldly for someone so breakable," she said. Her voice was like music and ice, beautiful and dangerous at the same time. "I speak the truth," Han Ti replied. "That requires no special strength." Something flickered in the princess's eyes. Interest, perhaps, or maybe amusement. "Come with me," she said. "I wish to speak with you alone." Han Ti looked at Captain Yuna. The captain's face was hard, but she gave a small nod. He followed the princess out of the hall, feeling the weight of 1,000 alien eyes on his back. She led him to a balcony that looked out over the crystal city. The 3 suns were setting, painting the sky in colors that had no names in human languages. "Your people are weak," the princess said without looking at him. "This is not an insult. It is simply fact. The Velan Empire has conquered 100 worlds. We have never lost a war. We have never met a species that could stand against us." "Then perhaps you have been fighting the wrong enemies," Han Ti said. The princess turned to face him. "You are either very brave or very stupid." "My mother always said I was a little of both." For a moment the princess almost smiled. Then her face became serious again. "I will offer you a challenge, human, a test. If you pass, your people will have earned the respect of the Velan Empire. If you fail, your ships will leave our space and never return." Han Ti waited. "I have a champion," the princess continued. "His name is Koro. He has never been defeated in combat. He has killed warriors from 50 different species. No one has ever lasted more than 2 minutes against him." She stepped closer, and Han Ti could smell something like flowers and lightning on her skin. "Defeat my champion in single combat," she said, "and I am yours. My hand, my loyalty, my empire's alliance, all of it." Han Ti looked into her violet eyes. He saw the challenge there, the absolute certainty that he would refuse or fail. "And if I lose," he asked, "then your people leave, and we forget you ever existed." The weight of the moment pressed down on Han Ti. He thought of his ship, his crew, his planet. He thought of everything humanity had worked for to reach the stars. He thought of his mother back home, who had always told him to stand up for what was right, even when it was hard. "I accept," he said. The princess's eyes widened slightly. She had not expected this. "The combat will be in 3 days," she said. "I hope you use the time well, human. You will need every moment of it." She turned and walked away, leaving Han Ti alone on the balcony with the dying light of 3 suns and the weight of 2 worlds on his shoulders. Captain Yuna did not yell. That would have been easier to handle. Instead, she sat behind her desk on the horizon and looked at Han Ti with eyes that could cut through steel. "You accepted a death match," she said slowly, as if speaking to a child. "Without permission, Without consulting anyone, you bet the entire future of human-villain relations on a fight you cannot win. Han Ti stood at attention. Yes, Captain. Do you have any idea what Koro is? I looked up the records. He has killed 347 opponents in single combat. The fastest death took 4 seconds. The slowest took an hour, and that was because he wanted to make it last. I understand, Captain. Yuna stood up and walked around her desk. She was a head shorter than Han Ti, but in that moment she seemed much larger. Then explain to me why I should not throw you in the brig and find some way to apologize to the princess. Han Ti met her eyes. Because under Velen law, a challenge accepted cannot be withdrawn. If I refuse now, it will be seen as proof that humans are cowards. We will lose any chance of alliance. We will lose respect. And we will lose something more important. And what is that? Hope, the hope that we belong among the stars. Yuna stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed and sat back down. You have 3 days, use them well, and Han Ti. Yes, Captain. Try not to die, I hate paperwork. Han Ti spent the first day watching. The Velens allowed him access to the Arena of Stars, a massive floating platform that hung in the sky above the Crystal City. The arena was made of something that looked like black glass, and it absorbed light rather than reflected it. Kara was training when Han Ti arrived. The champion was enormous, 9 feet tall, with muscles that looked like they had been carved from stone. His silver skin was covered in scars, each one a mark of victory. His face was brutal and beautiful at the same time, with a jaw that could probably bite through metal. Han Ti watched as Koro practiced. The champion moved with speed that should have been impossible for something so large. His fists struck training posts made of solid crystal, and the crystal shattered like ice. His kicks created winds that Han Ti could feel from 50 feet away. Impressive, is it not? Han Ti turned to see a young Velen standing nearby. He was smaller than most, barely 7 feet tall, and wore the simple clothes of a servant. Your champion is strong, Han Ti admitted. The servant laughed. Strong. The word does not begin to describe him. Kara once killed a mountain beast with his bare hands. He has fought in the vacuum of space. He has survived wounds that would destroy most ships. Han Ti watched Koro shatter another training post. Has anyone ever come close to beating him? The servant thought for a moment. There was one, a warrior from the Ash Worlds. He lasted almost 5 minutes before Koro broke his spine. It was considered very impressive. 5 minutes, Han Ti repeated quietly. The betting houses are offering odds of 1,000 to 1 against you, the servant said. Some are calling it the shortest fight in arena history. Han Ti smiled slightly. Then the betting houses will lose a lot of money. The servant looked at him with something like pity. You humans are strange creatures. You face death and you smile. Is it courage or madness? Where I come from, we call it stubbornness. That night, Han Ti sat in his quarters on the horizon and studied everything he could find about Velen combat. Dee sat with him, running through recordings and data files. Their fighting style is based on overwhelming force, Dee said, pointing at a video of Karo destroying an opponent. They attack fast and hard, expecting to end fights quickly. They do not pace themselves. They do not defend. They simply destroy. Han Ti nodded slowly, because they have never needed to do anything else. Exactly. No one has ever survived long enough to make them tired. No one has ever made them doubt. Dee paused the video on a frame showing Koro's face. But look at his eyes in the later rounds of his fights. By the 4th or 5th minute, there is something there. Confusion. He does not understand why his opponent is still moving. Because no one has ever simply refused to fall, Han Ti said. Dee looked at his friend with worried eyes. T, this is not a training exercise. If he hits you wrong, you will die. If he grabs you wrong, you will break. Human bodies were not built to fight things like him. Han Ti stood and walked to the window. The crystal city glowed in the darkness below, beautiful and cold. "When I was a boy," he said, "my grandmother told me a story about a man who had to carry a mountain. Everyone told him it was impossible. The mountain was too heavy, his body was too weak, he would fail. What happened? He carried it, not all at once. He carried it one rock at a time. It took him his whole life, but when he was done, the mountain was moved, and everyone who said it was impossible was proven wrong." Dee shook his head. "That is a nice story, but Koro is not a mountain. He is a living weapon that wants to kill you." "Then I will move him one rock at a time." The second day brought an unexpected visitor. Han Ti was exercising in the ship's training room when the door opened and Princess Lyra walked in. She was alone, without guards or servants, wearing simple clothes instead of her royal robes. Han Ti stopped his exercises but did not bow. They looked at each other in silence for a moment. "I expected to find you afraid," the princess said finally. "I expected to find you trying to escape or begging for mercy or drinking yourself into a stupor. Sorry to disappoint you." She walked around the room, looking at the simple human training equipment with curiosity. "Instead, I find you preparing, as if you actually believe you have a chance." "I do believe that." "Why?" The question was genuine, not mocking. "Koro is faster than you, stronger than you, more experienced than you. By every measure that matters, you are outmatched." Han Ti picked up a towel and wiped his face. "Have you ever studied human history, Princess?" "I have studied many things." "Then you know that we have survived ice ages that should have killed us. We have survived plagues that wiped out half our population. We have survived wars that burned our cities to ash. We have survived things that no species should survive. And yet here you are," the princess said, "small, weak, fragile. And still standing." Han Ti met her eyes. "That is the thing your champion has never faced. He has fought warriors who were stronger than him. He has fought monsters who were more savage. But he has never fought something that simply does not know how to quit." The princess was silent for a long moment. Han Ti could see something working behind her violet eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or maybe just curiosity. "You are not what I expected, human." "Han Ti, my name is Han Ti." "Han Ti," she said his name like she was tasting it. "I looked up information about your species after our talk. I found records of your wars, your disasters, your struggles." "And what did you learn?" The princess moved closer. "I learned that you should have died 100 times over. I learned that your planet has tried to kill you again and again. I learned that you have fought each other almost to extinction. And yet somehow, impossibly, you are still here. You built ships. You reached the stars. You came to meet us. We are stubborn that way." "It is more than stubbornness." The princess's voice was soft now, almost gentle. "It is something I do not have a word for, something that makes you continue when continuing makes no sense." Han Ti smiled. "We call it hope." Princess Lyra looked at him for a long moment. Something had changed in her expression. The cold certainty was gone, replaced by something more complicated. "I will be watching your fight, Han Ti," she said. "I find myself curious to see if you are right, to see if hope is stronger than muscle and bone. And if I win, then you will have earned something that no one else in the galaxy has ever earned, my respect." She turned and walked to the door. At the threshold, she paused and looked back. "For what it is worth, I hope you survive. It would be a shame for something so interesting to die so quickly." Then she was gone, and Han Ti was alone with his thoughts and the weight of tomorrow pressing down on him like a mountain waiting to be moved. The arena of stars was full. 10,000 Velans filled the floating seats that circled the black glass fighting floor. Their silver skin caught the light of the three suns and made the arena look like it was surrounded by a sea of mirrors. Han Ti stood in the entrance tunnel and listened to the roar of the crowd. They were chanting something in the Velan language. He did not need a translator to know what they were saying. They were calling for blood, his blood. Dee stood beside him, checking his equipment one last time. The rules are simple. No weapons, no outside help. Fight until one opponent cannot continue or surrenders. Cannot continue meaning dead, Han T said. Usually, yes. Dee's hands were shaking as he adjusted the straps on Han T's combat suit. T, you can still find a way out of this. Maybe if we talk to the captain, she can negotiate something. Han T put his hand on his friend's shoulder. It is too late for that, and even if it was not, I would not run, not from this. Why does it have to be you? Han T looked toward the arena floor. Because I am here. Because someone has to. Because if I do not, then every species in this galaxy will think humans are cowards, and we will never be taken seriously. Those are big reasons. I have a small one too. Han T smiled. I want to see the look on their faces when the small, soft human does not fall down. A horn sounded. The crowd's roar grew louder. It was time. Han T walked out onto the arena floor. The black glass was warm under his feet, like it was alive. The air smelled like metal and something sweet that he could not identify. The human delegation watched from a special balcony. Captain Yuna stood at the front, her face like stone. Behind her, the rest of the crew looked like they were attending a funeral. In a way, Han T supposed they were. On the opposite side of the arena, Princess Lyra sat on a throne of crystal. Her violet eyes followed Han T as he walked to the center of the floor. He could not read her expression from this distance, but he thought he saw something like tension in the way she held herself. Then the crowd went completely silent. Koro entered the arena. The champion walked slowly, taking his time, letting the audience appreciate his massive form. He wore no armor. He needed none. His body was weapon and shield in one. Each step he took made the black glass shake slightly under Han T's feet. Koro stopped 10 feet away from Han T. This close, the size difference was almost comical. Han T barely reached the champion's chest. He could have stood on his toes and still not looked Koro in the eyes. Koro looked down at him with an expression of mild confusion. You are the human who accepted the princess's challenge. I am. I thought there must be some mistake. You are so small. Han T shrugged. Good things come in small packages. For a moment, Koro looked like he did not understand. Then he laughed. It was a deep, booming sound that echoed across the arena. You have humor, I like that. I will try to make your death quick. That is very kind of you. An announcer's voice filled the arena, speaking in the Velen language. Han T did not understand the words, but he understood when the voice stopped, and a final horn blast signaled the start of the fight. Koro did not waste time. He moved forward with speed that should have been impossible for something his size. His fist came at Han T like a meteor falling from the sky. Han T tried to dodge. He was not fast enough. The blow caught him in the chest and sent him flying across the arena. He hit the ground hard, rolled, and felt something crack in his ribs. Pain exploded through his body like fire. The crowd roared with delight. Han T lay on the black glass and looked up at the sky. 3 suns stared down at him like burning eyes. Every breath sent lightning through his chest. His body screamed at him to stay down, to surrender, to let the pain end. He got up. The crowd's roar faltered slightly. Koro tilted his head, looking at Han T with something like surprise. You can still move. Impressive. Most opponents do not get up after the first blow. Han T wiped blood from his lip. I am not most opponents. Koro smiled. Good, that means I can hit you again. The second blow was faster than the first. Han T saw it coming this time and managed to turn his body slightly. The fist still caught his shoulder and spun him around like a toy. He hit the ground face first and tasted blood. The pain was worse this time. His shoulder felt like it had been torn from its socket. His vision blurred at the edges. His body begged him to stay down. He got up. The crowd's roar was different now. There was uncertainty in it. Some of the Velans were leaning forward in their seats, watching with new interest. Koro's smile faded. "You are stubborn." "My mother always said so." The third blow came from the side. Hanti tried to block it with his arms, but it was like trying to stop a landslide with bare hands. His arms went numb. His knees buckled. He fell. He got up. The fourth blow caught him in the stomach. He doubled over, unable to breathe. His vision went white with pain. He fell. He got up. The fifth blow, the sixth, the seventh, each one should have been fatal. Each one drove Hanti into the black glass like a nail being hammered into wood. Each time the pain was worse. Each time his body screamed louder for him to surrender. Each time he got up. The arena had gone quiet. 10,000 Velans watched in stunned silence as the small human rose again and again from blows that should have killed him 10 times over. Blood covered his face. His arms hung at his sides like broken branches. His legs shook so badly he could barely stand. But he stood. Princess Lyra had risen from her throne. Her hands gripped the railing in front of her so tightly that the crystal cracked under her fingers. Her violet eyes were wide, fixed on the human who refused to fall. Koro stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard for the first time anyone could remember. His face showed an expression that no one had ever seen there before. Confusion, frustration, and beneath it, something that might have been the beginning of fear. "Why do you not stay down?" he demanded. "Why do you not surrender? You cannot win. You cannot even hurt me. Why do you keep getting up?" Hanti's voice came out as barely a whisper, but the arena sound system carried it to every ear. "Because I do not know how to stay down." Koro stared at him. "That is not an answer." "It is the only answer I have." The champion roared and launched himself forward. This time there was no strategy, no technique, just rage and frustration and the desperate need to end this impossible human who would not accept defeat. Hanti watched him come. Time seemed to slow down. He saw every muscle in Koro's body tense. He saw the angle of the attack. He saw the opening that rage had created. He did not try to block. He did not try to dodge. Instead, he stepped forward. Koro's fist passed over his shoulder, missing by inches. For one heartbeat, they were close enough to embrace. Hanti looked up into the champion's shocked eyes. "My turn," he whispered. He struck not with a fist. His hands were too broken for that. He used his elbow, driving it into the soft spot just below Koro's ribs. It was not a powerful blow. Against most opponents, it would have done nothing. But Hanti knew where to hit. Humans had been fighting bigger, stronger opponents since the beginning of their history. They had learned where the weak points were. They had learned that even giants could be brought down if you knew where to strike. Koro grunted and stepped back. It was not much, just a single step, just a momentary flash of pain across his face. But it was enough. The crowd gasped. The princess leaned forward. Captain Yuna's stone face cracked into something that might have been hope. Hanti looked at Koro, with blood-covered lips curved into a smile. "That was one," he said. "I wonder how many more it will take." Something had changed in the arena. Hanti could feel it in the air, see it in the faces of the watching Velans. What had started as entertainment had become something else, something none of them had ever witnessed before. Koro felt it too. The champion stood with one hand pressed against his side where Hanti's elbow had struck. The pain was small, almost nothing compared to wounds he had received in past battles, but it should not have been there at all. No opponent had ever touched him. "You hurt me," Koro said. There was wonder in his voice like a child discovering something new. "How did you hurt me?" Hanti stood on legs that trembled like leaves in a storm. Every breath was agony. He was certain that at least 3 of his ribs were broken, maybe more. His left arm hung useless at his side. Blood dripped from cuts on his face and chest, painting the black glass floor red. "Your people fight to destroy," Han-Ti said. His voice was rough, barely above a whisper. "My people fight to survive. There is a difference." "What difference?" "When you fight to destroy, you only need to be strong. When you fight to survive, you need to be smart." Koro's confusion turned to anger. "Smart? You call this smart? Look at yourself. You are broken. You are bleeding. You can barely stand. And yet I am still standing." The champion roared and attacked again. This time Han-Ti was ready. He could not match Koro's speed or strength, but he had been watching. He had been learning. The rage in Koro's attacks made them predictable. Han-Ti stepped to the side. Koro's fist missed by an inch and struck the black glass floor. Cracks spread out from the impact like a spider's web. Before Koro could recover, Han-Ti drove his knee into the back of the champion's leg. It was like kicking a tree. Pain shot through Han-Ti's knee, but he saw Koro stumble. Just a little, just enough. He struck again. His good elbow found the same spot below Koro's ribs. Then his foot caught the side of the champion's knee. Then another elbow to the throat. None of the blows were powerful. Against any other opponent, they would have been gentle touches. But Han-Ti hit the same spots again and again. Each strike built on the last. Each one added a little more damage. Water against stone, persistent, relentless, inevitable. Koro swung wildly, and Han-Ti ducked under the blow. He came up inside the champion's guard and delivered 3 quick strikes to the nerve cluster under Koro's arm. The champion's arm went numb for half a second. Half a second was enough. Han-Ti grabbed the arm and twisted. He used Koro's own momentum against him, borrowing techniques that humans had developed over thousands of years of fighting each other. Judo, Aikido, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the accumulated wisdom of a species that had always been smaller and weaker than its enemies. Koro stumbled, his knee hit the ground. The crowd went completely silent. No one breathed. No one moved. The undefeated champion of the Velen Empire was on one knee before a human. Princess Lyra stood frozen at her throne. Her violet eyes were wide with disbelief. In all her life she had never seen Koro touched. Now she watched him kneel. Koro rose with a scream of rage. His attacks became wild, desperate. He swung at Han-Ti with enough force to destroy buildings. Each blow that connected sent the human flying. Each time, Han-Ti hit the ground in a broken heap. Each time he got back up. And each time he got up, he hit back. A strike to Koro's kidney, an elbow to his solar plexus, a kick to the inside of his knee. Small wounds, tiny damages, but they added up. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The fight that was supposed to last seconds stretched into something unprecedented. The crowd began to murmur, then to shout. Some were calling for Koro to finish it. Others were simply watching in stunned silence. Koro was breathing hard now. His movements had slowed. Not much, but enough for Han-Ti to notice. The champion had never needed endurance before. His fights ended in seconds. He was not built for long battles. But humans were. Humans were the persistence hunters, the marathon runners, the species that had chased prey across entire continents until the prey dropped from exhaustion. Humans were built to last. Han-Ti could barely see through the blood and sweat in his eyes. His body had gone beyond pain into something else, a strange floating numbness that he knew was dangerous. He was running on nothing but will now. Pure, stubborn, human will. Koro swung again. Han-Ti saw it coming. He stepped inside the blow and struck the champion's throat with the edge of his hand. It was a perfect hit. Koro choked and stumbled backward, gasping for air. For the first time, Han-Ti saw fear in the champion's eyes. Real, genuine fear. Not of death. Koro was not afraid to die. He was afraid of something worse. He was afraid of losing. "Yield," Han-Ti said. His voice was barely a croak. "It does not have to end with death. Yield." Koro's answer was a roar that shook the arena. He charged at Han Ti with everything he had left. This was his final attack, victory or death. There would be no other options. Han Ti watched him come. He had one chance, one moment. Everything he had left went into this. Koro swung his fist down in an overhead blow meant to crush Han Ti into the ground. Han Ti did not try to dodge. Instead, he stepped forward and caught the arm. The impact nearly destroyed him. His legs buckled. His spine screamed. But he held on. He used the momentum of Koro's attack to spin the champion around. He dropped low and swept Koro's legs out from under him. The champion fell. Han Ti was on him in an instant. His arm wrapped around Koro's neck. His legs locked around the champion's torso. It was a chokehold, one of the oldest submissions in human martial arts. Koro thrashed. He was still stronger. He could still break free if he could find the right angle. But Han Ti held on with every fiber of his being. He squeezed tighter. He refused to let go. Seconds passed. Koro's struggles weakened. His silver face turned dark blue from lack of air. His movements became sluggish, uncoordinated. "Yield," Han Ti whispered in his ear. "There is no shame in losing to someone who will not give up. Yield and live. Fight another day." Koro's hand came up. For a moment, Han Ti thought he was going to strike. Instead, the champion's palm slapped against the black glass floor 3 times. The universal signal of surrender. The arena was silent for 1 heartbeat, 2, 3. Then chaos erupted. Some Velen screamed in denial. Others simply sat in stunned silence. A few, very few, began to clap. The sound grew, spread. Soon half the arena was applauding, not because they wanted to, but because they could not help themselves. They had witnessed the impossible. The undefeated champion had been defeated by a human. Han Ti released the chokehold and rolled away. He tried to stand, but his legs would not cooperate. He lay on the black glass floor, looking up at the 3 suns, and tried to remember how to breathe. Princess Lyra rose from her throne. She walked down from her platform, across the arena floor, toward where Han Ti lay. The crowd fell silent again as they watched their princess approach the victorious human. She knelt beside him. Her violet eyes searched his face. "You won," she said. There was wonder in her voice. "You actually won." Han Ti tried to smile. It came out more like a grimace. "Does this mean you are mine now?" The princess looked at him for a long moment. Something complex moved behind her eyes. Pride, admiration, and something else, something warmer. "Yes," she said softly. "That is what I promised. And a princess of Velos keeps her promises." Han Ti's consciousness was fading. The world was going gray at the edges. But before darkness took him, he managed to speak one more time. "Good," he whispered. "We have a lot to talk about." Then he passed out, and the last thing he heard was the princess calling for medical help, and the roar of a crowd that had just learned what humans were truly made of. Han Ti woke to the sound of soft music and the smell of flowers he did not recognize. He was lying in a bed that was far too comfortable, surrounded by walls of crystal that caught the light of the setting suns and scattered it into rainbows. His body hurt. That was the first clear thought he had. Everything hurt. But the pain was distant, muffled by whatever medicine was flowing through the tube attached to his arm. He turned his head and saw Princess Lyra sitting beside his bed. She was watching him with those violet eyes that seemed to see everything. "You have been unconscious for 2 days," she said. "The doctors were not sure you would wake up. They said the damage to your body was extensive. They said humans are very fragile." Han Ti managed a small smile. "That is what everyone keeps telling me." "And yet here you are, alive, awake, healing." The princess shook her head slowly. "I do not understand your species. Everything about you should be weak. Your bones break easily. Your skin tears. You cannot survive in extreme temperatures. You need to breathe constantly. You need to eat and drink more often than any species I know." We are high maintenance, Han Ti agreed. And yet you won, the princess leaned forward. You defeated a champion who has destroyed armies. You did it with a broken body and nothing but stubborn will. How is that possible? Han Ti thought about the question. It deserved a real answer. When I was young, he said slowly, my grandfather told me about our ancestors. Thousands of years ago, they lived on wide plains filled with animals that were faster and stronger than them. They had no claws, no fangs, no armor. By all logic, they should have died out. But they did not. No, they survived because they learned to do something no other animal could do. They learned to run, not fast but far. They would chase their prey for hours, sometimes days. They would follow it until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then they would kill it. Persistence hunting, the princess said. I read about it in your records. That is what we are, Han Ti said. We are not the strongest, we are not the fastest, we are not the most advanced, but we do not stop, we do not give up. We keep going until we win or until we die, and sometimes that is enough. The princess was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood and walked to the window. The twin moons of Velo's prime were rising, casting silver light across the crystal city. The Empire is in chaos, she said. Koro's defeat has shaken everyone. Some are angry. They say the fight was unfair, that you cheated somehow. Others are afraid. If a single human can defeat our greatest champion, what could an army of humans do? And what do you think? The princess turned to face him. I think that my people have been blind. We have measured strength only by how hard we can hit. We never considered that there might be other kinds of strength. The strength to endure. The strength to keep fighting when there is no hope. The strength to get up one more time. She walked back to his bed and sat down. You won the challenge. By the ancient laws, I belong to you now. My hand in marriage, my loyalty, my empire's alliance. All of it is yours to claim. Han Ti looked at her. She was beautiful in a way that was hard to describe. Strong and proud, but with something gentle hidden beneath the surface. He could see that she was waiting for him to claim his prize. She expected him to do what any conqueror would do. No, he said. The princess blinked. What? I do not want you as a prize. I do not want to own you. That was never what I fought for. Then why? Her voice was confused, almost hurt. Why did you accept the challenge? Why did you nearly die? Han Ti reached out and took her hand. Her silver skin was cool against his damaged fingers. I fought so you would see us, he said. Not as weak creatures to be dismissed, not as toys to be played with. I fought so you would see us as equals, as partners, as friends. But the laws say you belong to me, so I am using that right to set you free. Han Ti squeezed her hand gently. I do not want a princess who was won like a trophy. If you ever come to me, I want it to be because you choose to, not because some ancient law forces you. Princess Lyra stared at him. In her long life, she had met thousands of warriors, nobles, and leaders from across the galaxy. She had seen ambition and greed and cruelty in endless variations. No one had ever given away power. No one had ever chosen respect over ownership. Until now. You are a strange creature, Han Ti, she whispered. I am human. Strange is what we do. A sound came from the doorway. They turned to see Captain Yuna standing there with Dee and several other crew members. Behind them stood Velen officials and, to Han Ti's surprise, Koro himself. The champion walked forward. He moved slowly, still recovering from their battle. When he reached Han Ti's bed, he did something that made everyone in the room gasp. He knelt. I have fought for 400 years, Koro said. I have killed more opponents than I can count. I have never known defeat. I thought I understood strength. I thought I understood what it meant to be a warrior. He looked up at Han Ti with eyes that held no anger, only respect. You taught me that I knew nothing. Strength is not about how hard you can hit. It is about how many times you can be hit and still stand up. I have never met anyone who could teach me that lesson. Until you. Han-Ti did not know what to say. He simply nodded. Koro stood and stepped back. Captain Yuna came forward with a smile that Han-Ti had never seen on her face before. The Velen Council has agreed to full diplomatic relations with Earth, she said. They have also agreed to a mutual defense treaty. They want to learn more about us, about how we fight, about how we survive. And they want you to stay, Dee added, grinning. They are asking for you to be the first human ambassador to Velos Prime. Han-Ti looked at Princess Lyra. Is this true? It is. The princess stood tall, her royal bearing returned. You have earned something that no one else in the history of our empire has earned. You have earned our respect. We want to learn from you. We want to understand how a species so fragile can produce warriors so strong. And the princess, Han-Ti asked, what happens to her? Princess Lyra smiled. It was the first real smile he had ever seen from her. It transformed her face, making her look younger and more alive. The princess chooses for herself, she said. That is what you gave me, the right to choose. She took his hand again. And I choose to stay, not as your prize, not as your possession, but as your partner, if you will have me. Han-Ti looked at this alien princess who had dared him to do the impossible. He looked at Captain Yuna, who was trying not to cry. He looked at Dee, who was already planning the celebration. He looked at Koro, who had become something like a friend through combat. I will have you, he said, on one condition. Name it. Next time you want to test someone, maybe just ask them to dinner first. The room erupted in laughter. Even Koro smiled, a sight that made several Velen officials faint from shock. Later that night, Han-Ti stood on a balcony overlooking the Crystal City. The twin moons hung in the sky like silver coins. The stars stretched out forever, full of worlds and species that humanity had not yet met. Princess Lyra stood beside him, close enough that he could feel her warmth. The Empire is watching us now, she said. The whole galaxy is watching. They want to know what humans will do next. Han-Ti looked up at the stars. He thought about his grandmother and her stories. He thought about his grandfather and the Persistence hunters. He thought about all the humans who had struggled and fought and survived so that one day their descendants could stand among the stars. What we will do next, he said, is the same thing we have always done. We will keep going. We will keep fighting. We will keep standing up, no matter how many times we get knocked down. We will do whatever it takes to survive and protect the people we love. And if it seems impossible. Han-Ti turned to look at her. In the moonlight, her violet eyes were like windows into another universe. He smiled. Impossible just means it has not been done yet. Humans are very good at doing things that have not been done yet. Princess Lyra laughed. It was a beautiful sound, like bells ringing across a crystal valley. I think I am going to enjoy learning about your species, Han-Ti. And I think, he said, taking her hand, that this is the beginning of something amazing. They stood together on the balcony, watching the stars, as two worlds became one. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the galaxy turned its attention toward a small, fragile species that had just proven it was anything but weak. The human story was only beginning, and it was going to be spectacular.